First story. Delusional daughter invited my wife's abusive parents to her birthday to try a forced reconciliation. But it backfired after her parents barged into our house and physically assaulted my wife, causing her to rush to the ER. Now, the daughter is regretting everything, but I lost my cool and lashed out at her, grounded her, took her phone, and deleted all her social media. Okay, so background: I'm 40 and married to a 38. We met in high school. The wife's parents are terrible. Completely abused her until she moved out at 18. My wife has always tried to be a good mother and break the abusive cycle. We both have good jobs. They want nothing, and we tried not to spoil them. They have chores, know their manners, and are good kids in school. So my daughter came home one day and asked us to go visit her grandparents' house. We said yes because we thought she meant my parents. But no, she meant my wife's. My wife immediately said no. Then I backed her up and said they would have no part in their lives. She said I was overreacting and that she deserved to meet all her grandparents, and we were being selfish. My wife was diagnosed with PTSD and still sees a therapist due to all the bullshit that she went through. It really annoyed me, and I sent her to her room. I talked to my wife and said that I should tell her what happened, so she understands why we are saying no. That her parents aren't good people. My wife was reluctant, but agreed as long as she didn't have to be there, so she wasn't triggered. I went to my daughter's room the next day, and I talked to her. I said, "Look, I understand you are upset, but we are not saying no just to say no. There is a lot you do not understand, but I'm going to explain it so that you understand more. Your mom's parents were abusive. She was humiliated daily, screamed, and terrorized since she was 6 years old. Every moment and holiday was ruined by fear, and she almost died on Thanksgiving Day due to her stepfather. That your mom and her sister still suffer from the trauma, and that we will never have a relationship with them. And I hope that she understands now, something along the lines of that." I told her, and I thought she understood. Anyway, it was my wife's birthday a week ago, and she doesn't like celebrating honestly, but does it for us. It was actually a really great day. My wife's sister, our 2 other children, and my whole family were there celebrating at our house. Until around 7 at night, I heard a knock at my door, and my daughter went to answer the door. We figured it was a friend of hers. But when she came right back into the living room, it was my shy mother-in-law and father-in-law. My wife and her sister were both frozen, and they came in like they effing owned the place. I'm trying to be a buddy. My wife asked them in a timid voice. "What are you doing here?" they said. "Our granddaughter invited us." She then tried to speak up more and tell them they needed to go. But they wouldn't. I got up and went between my wife and them and said, "Leave, they are unwanted here." My daughter really stood up for them and said that she talked to them, and that mom just exaggerated what happened, and they were good parents. That's when my father-in-law said, "That's right, whatever we did to you ungrateful kids, you deserved," which pissed my wife off, and she shouted to leave. I went up with my dad, and we were going to push him out. But 64 250 pounds at least got us off him, and he pushed my wife into the wall. Her head hit straight back against the wall. She had to get stitches. As soon as that happened, me, my dad, and my brother forced him outside. And they said they needed to leave, or we would press charges. Her mom kept saying that she was a good mom, and my wife was dramatic, and she just had bad children. Anyway, my mother took my wife to the hospital because we were still trying to get them to leave the driveway. My mother brought her there and back once they had left completely. My wife didn't say anything the rest of the night, besides thanking my mother for the ride, and then going to our room. Her sister was really freaked out too and left, right after hugging my wife. My children were in the living room, and I told my son and my younger daughter to go into their rooms. I needed to speak to their sister. I admit, I lost it. I effing screamed. Said she was so selfish, and I couldn't believe she did that. She still got in contact after I explained what they did to her mom when she was younger. I was honestly disgusted with her. She started to cry and say that she genuinely thought I was exaggerating, and it would be good for them to get together. She said she got in touch with them on social media, and they seemed great. They made everything seem less bad, and she said she didn't think they could be that evil and be related to us. I told her there are evil people everywhere. We have just tried to shield her away, because parents are supposed to protect their kids. I was so upset. I genuinely wanted to call her an idiot, but I didn't. But every move my wife made to move past her trauma was demolished by this idiotic decision. My daughter apologized, and saying sorry doesn't cut it. Her actions risked her mother's health and everyone's safety. My wife talked to her and said that she no longer trusts her, and that these are the consequences of her actions. for meddling in something that was not her business to meddle with. She has no more phones and no more visiting friends until she earns that trust again. And we can add a punishment we see fit. I've comforted my wife as much as I can, but she's not great. While I honestly think I went too easy on my daughter, I figured I should have other opinions. Ada. Edit. To clear the timeline, my daughter sought them out after I told her what happened during her mom's childhood. I asked, and she said she reached out first as well. My daughter is 16 years old. Ada does not have a vote bot. But judging by the comments, the majority of Redditors see OP as NTA. Update posted below the original post. Update. More information. We did make a report and are pressing charges. And we will be doing everything we can to get a restraining order. We didn't call the police because we live in a secluded area, and it would take too long for them to get there. We deleted all my daughter's social media, and I did look at her texts between her and the in-laws. She reached out first, and kept pursuing them. There were 3 messages before that my in-laws ignored, until they eventually responded. Also, that was not the first conversation we had with her about my wife's parents. It was just the first in-depth conversation. I told her specific scenarios and events that happened without getting too graphic. But she and my other children always knew that their grandparents were bad. We had multiple talks growing up when we first started to explain why they only have one set of grandparents. Unlike most of their friends, we never said anything in specific detail about the actual events, only that their grandparents were bad people who hurt their mother and aunt a lot. She told me she's doing her best and feels bad for distancing herself from her daughter. But she's just extremely hurt. My wife's going into more therapy sessions than she normally does, and we have set up an appointment for my daughter to see one as well, and we will try family therapy to get back to normal. Anyway, I did not think this would get so many views. Thanks for all the advice. My wife's going into more therapy sessions than she normally does, and we have set up an appointment for my daughter to see one as well, and we will try family therapy to get back to normal. Anyway, I did not think this would get so many views. Thanks for all the advice. Second story. I hate my 14-year-old son and wish he would just die. I have 3 sons. My oldest Alex and youngest Cam are wonderful boys, sweet, smart, and funny. They are such caring boys. I am proud to be their mother. They will do good things in the world. I love them. But then there is my son, Ben. He is 14, and he terrifies me. I was roped one night while jogging, trying to lose baby weight, by my oldest son. The man was eventually caught after he roped a dozen other women. I don't personally believe in abortion. I used to be a proponent of nurture versus nature, and we couldn't be sure whether the baby was the rapist's or my husband. So I had the baby, and I loved him. I did nothing different. But the older he got, the more I noticed that something wasn't right. He never learned to play well with others smaller than him. Those bigger, like his brother, he was fine with. But if you put him with a smaller kid, he'd be unbearably cruel. Punishment only made him more subtle. He still terrorizes his younger brother. He's in therapy and has been diagnosed with an alphabet of symptoms. He started going when he was 7 and kept stealing lighters. Despite being bright, he does poorly in school. In elementary school, his teacher cried and said that he tortured her. She was a new teacher, and he was a big 11-year-old who taunted her, and she thought but couldn't prove it, ripped her posters, and ruined other things. That was just the beginning. I'm constantly at the school for some behavioral problems. It's always hearsay, and I've always told myself that kids can lie. But now I'm getting called in because he's become aggressive with girls. And I know what he will become. I met what he'd become on a running trail. He is broken, and I don't think anything can fix him. He's so big, I'm now terrified to be left alone with him, because when he has a rage, I can't stop him. He is going to do bad things. I created this monster, and he is going to hurt other people. I won't be able to stop him. I sometimes wish he'd die in a car wreck before he hurts anyone else, and while he's still young enough that people will remember him fondly. Edit. I didn't think the confession would be so judgmental. I would never physically harm him. God help me. I love him. He's not always a monster. I held him as a small baby. I made him cakes every birthday. I was there for all of it. But if you ask the parent of any school shooter, rapist, or murderer, they would tell you they wish their child had died in a car crash before they committed an atrocity. I used to have hope. Even when we had to get rid of our puppy, I thought doctors could help him. I have always been his biggest defender. But I snapped after hearing about his latest transgressions. He pushed a girl up against a locker in a deserted hallway. He didn't know her in the slightest, and she didn't know him. It's the only hallway without cameras. How convenient. He expressed so much remorse when in the office to the authorities, but dropped it in the car, making callous remarks and blaming the girl. I met his father once. I had to confront the man who did this. He was charming, so charming, and very much like my son to look at. He's a handsome man. He had a degree. I asked him if he regretted it. He looked extremely surprised and said, "Of course I regret getting caught. That is my son. He regrets the consequences of his actions, but never thinks they're wrong. He also thinks he's too smart to get caught. So pardon me if I see a dark future and wish that it would never happen." In the comments, Sign Knox. I'm very sorry that you're getting the reactions that you're getting in this thread. It's shocking and completely unacceptable. I have a feeling that if you were male, a lot of the hateful speech wouldn't be there. For what it's worth, I knew a couple of families who had serious problem children and plenty of happy, healthy, well-adjusted children as well. Nobody on these threads has any new information about nature versus nurture. That's well outside of the realm of what we know at this point. And the problem is so rare that most of these people have zero understanding of what dealing with one of these children is actually like. It's easy to blame the caregivers when, in fact, some of the most extreme behavioral problems can be biological in nature. I have seen how very good people can do everything they know and try everything they can within reason to help a problematic child. Whether the child is your husband or not is beside the point. What you describe sounds intentional, targeted, and potentially psychopathic, since you say that punishments tend to make him more subtle. It might be worth trying to get an entirely new team of doctors for your son, and attempting to work with a new therapist as well. I'm sorry that most people here will not be able to understand your situation or offer any meaningful advice. And I think that your feelings are understandable given years' worth of extreme anxiety, fear, and feelings of responsibility for someone who actively harms other people. OP. We just switched due to escalating behavior. Hopefully, this time we will have some results. Sometimes I do wonder if he might have borderline personality disorder. Of course, he's been to so many therapists that he knows the routine, and as long as nothing goes against his way, he can be charming. So it's hard for therapists to get a good read on him anymore. I look at lists of symptoms and check them off. Wet bed past the age of 12. Cruel to small animals. And then I don't sleep. Sterling_Mallory. He stopped dead in the middle of the screaming, turned to me, and said in this flat, adult voice, "Well, you didn't think that through very clearly then, did you?" Good Lord, that is horrifying. OP. Exactly the kind of thing B does or says. If he were just aggressive or angry, it wouldn't be as hard. But he can be quite malicious, and so condescendingly cruel. Example, when he was 7, he locked his youngest brother in a closet. He is terrified of closed spaces and the dark, and he was too scared to scream. When I got him out, he was crying and had peed his pants. Which, granted, is not nice, but boys do like to torture their brothers, and it didn't seem like a mini psycho. He was punished accordingly and was not allowed to play video games that night. That night, while the other boys were playing Mario, he acted oddly. My other kids would either torture themselves by watching or go up to their room and pout when they got this punishment. He was in the kitchen, drawing calmly, not seeming angry or bothered in the slightest. I told him that lately I'd been very proud of how he was treating his brother and asked why he did what he did. Because he's a baby and can't stop me. Duh, it seemed to say. And the drawing. In fact, in second grade handwriting, a list of reasons he hated Caleb was written calmly, 7 hours after the event. Update. In my original post, I don't think I managed to convey my love for Ben. Some of you probably snort. How can you love someone you fear and think horrible things of? He is still my son, my little boy. I carried him for 9 months and dreamed of the man he could become. I have many bad memories of his childhood violent acts, aggression, or antisocial behavior, but I have good memories. He was always a bedwetter, so most mornings it would be the two of us up first, and we would just watch cartoons together and drink cocoa, and I would rub his hair. We have family trips, holidays, and all of that. We have had good times. A part of me looks at him and sees his potential. He is a tall, handsome boy. Girls stop and point at him, once even taking a picture with their phone, and he is a smart kid. He is obsessed with bikes and talented at math and puzzles. Unfortunately, I see the danger. I know him better than anyone, and I fear his potential. His potential for cruelty and his penchant to hurt. Shortly after I made the first post, this came out, and he threw his brother, his little brother, who was half his size, through a window for using his bike. Luckily, Cam was only slightly hurt. But that was when I realized he couldn't be in this house. And so did my husband, who has always been the most adamant that sending him anywhere would be more harm than good. We found a military school, and he's been there for 4 months. It is going well. His grades are good, and he even received some monthly awards. I almost found hope again. Until we visited last month, he informed me that he would be good until he was 18 and could do as he wanted. I was stupid not to just wait my time to do things my way. I know that now, Mom. So we might as well save the money and bring him home. He was only playing good around the right people, and that's all it takes to do well there. Overall, he doesn't mind being there. He just said it was a waste for us all and mostly asked for money for snacks and for us to send his bikes when he gained the privilege. He still despises his younger brother. I will never understand his hatred of Cam. It just occurred from the moment he saw him and has never desisted. I hope for the best. Maybe 3 years of playing well will rub off, and he will learn to live in society. Maybe he'll be toxic, but not criminally. Or maybe he'll make a killing on Wall Street. Or maybe he'll kill. Maybe not. But this is the end of our rope. We don't know what else to do. We can only hope for the best. The good will win out. I did a paternity test before we sent him to military school. I was so conflicted. His therapists have always said keeping him home, close to loved ones, and connected was the best thing we could do, and I feared that Ben's paternity was all in my head. Unfortunately, I was right. Ben is not my husband's son. I should have known to look at them all, behavior issues aside. Ben is so fair and lean and very tall, whereas my husband is dark and broad, and I'm a tiny redhead. I obviously have not, and will not tell either one. It could only cause more hurt. Third story. Entitled Daughter ruined my wife's wedding dress for her own dress, and then said it was a waste anyway, as there was no one else in the family getting married after her. So, I stopped paying for her wedding, and decided to cut ties with her. My wife made her wedding dress with her mother. It was very sentimental to her, and she was very proud of it. It was simple, but freaking gorgeous. She has always said she would love for our kids to wear her dress to their wedding. We have 3 daughters, 34, 30, 25, and 1 son, 28. My wife made it known that the dress was not to be altered except to be taken in or let out so it could be kept and reworn. Our youngest daughter didn't wear it. Our Dill wore it for their reception, and our son held it up against him for some pre-wedding bridal pictures so he wasn't left out. He totally rocked it. The oldest daughter wore it to her wedding. We've offered some financial contributions to all our children towards either school, a wedding, or a house down payment. Olivia has asked for help paying for her wedding. The wedding is at the beginning of August. A few months ago, Olivia asked my wife if she could use the dress for her wedding, and my wife gave her the dress so Olivia could get it fitted with plenty of time. On Tuesday, Olivia asked me to go with her to pay some vendors. One of the stops was the tailor shop for a final fitting, and to pay the seamstress. Olivia was really nervous, and I figured it was just the usual pre-wedding jitters and excitement. The dress Olivia came out in was not at all her mother's dress. It was a completely different dress, with parts of her mother's gown added to it. She took the straps, the sash, the train, and the embroidered top skirt, and had them added to this new dress. I was befuddled for a bit, and then asked what the hell this was. Olivia's reasoning was that she was the last of our kids to get married, and there wasn't anyone else to wear it, and she made sure to instruct them to keep the original dress to be returned to her. I told her that's not the same. She knows it, and the dress was never hers to do with what she wanted. I asked the seamstress for the rest of my wife's dress, and had Olivia tell my wife in person what she had done. My wife was devastated. I have since canceled the payments I made that day, and told her I wouldn't be paying another cent for her wedding. She and her fiancé can figure it out. Our youngest daughter thinks I've gone overboard, knowing Olivia planned her wedding with our help in mind, and without it, she can't finish paying for everything. Olivia's future in-laws also agree with that. They can't afford to help and suggested I should pay. And then we just go out of contact with Olivia. I've told them both that Olivia took something irreplaceable from her mother for her own vanity. I know we originally offered help with the wedding, but I think Olivia's actions warrant canceling that offer. Ada. Edit. Thank you everyone for the responses. My wife and I will look at more of them tomorrow and discuss the subject further. I just want to address a misconception. We have not had low or no contact with Olivia. Her in-laws suggested it, and that is insane. My wife's initial reaction to finding out Tuesday was to not go to the wedding. That was said in anger and not a done deal. It'd probably depend a lot on Olivia's handling until then as well. Taking the dress she paid for would hurt our relationship with her, just as much as not paying for anything else. which is why we are discussing our options and skimming comments for things we have not thought of but are doable. Update. My wife and I are reading as many comments as we can. She appreciates the concern and support. For those saying the dress wouldn't be worn again anyway, she has this to say. It's not about whether or not it would be worn again. If none of my children asked to wear it, I would still keep the dress for myself. My mother taught me everything I know about sewing. We spent months picking out fabrics and doing trial and error on practice dresses as we made mine. It was mine. It was my one prized possession that held incredible memories for me. I have thought of having it put in my casket with me because once I'm gone, the person it mattered to is gone. However, I would have worn it again. Our 40th anniversary is in a couple years, and I was very much looking forward to recreating our photos. It may seem like I'm choosing my dress over my daughter, but I'm not. It is her deceit, indifference, and blatant lack of remorse that I am hurt most by and having a hard time with. It is the underhanded ways she thought to address the issue. It is a fact that she will not apologize and have a conversation with me, but is only worried about the rest of her wedding items being paid for and pinning them until after her honeymoon. I did not raise her to be like that. I would have loved to help her make designs for the dress she picked out if she had asked, and she knows this. I have never denied her help in her life, nor has our help come with conditions. Today we'll take my wife's dress to the seamstress, who has the Frankendress, to see what can be repaired. My wife has said the sash and train are most likely lost, as the fabric of the gown was cut and the seams undone properly. Paraphrasing here, not up on sewing lingo. Unfortunately, even if parts of it can be restored, Olivia is currently not wanting to give up the dress after the wedding. She wants to keep hers and is imploring her mother to understand since she kept her wedding dress for so long. We don't want to lose our relationship with our daughter, but we both agree there need to be consequences. And there isn't really any moving forward if Olivia isn't willing to budge on anything. Update. After posting, my wife went to the seamstress shop and had the pieces of her dress removed since Olivia refused to have them taken off and returned after the wedding. This caused an upset with our daughter when she found out. Our future son-in-law came to talk to us afterward to get our side of the story. Regrettably, Olivia was not honest with him about the situation and had told him my wife was upset that Olivia took too many parts off the dress. He was not aware she had lied to get the dress in the first place and was avoiding her mother. As it turned out, he got involved after two of her bridesmaids dropped out at the same time, and he was getting conflicting stories from her and them. Olivia had used their phones to cancel plans with their respective boyfriends, so they could be free for the last-minute plans Olivia made for her bridesmaids. According to Olivia's friends, her personality has changed over the last few years since she got a promotion at work and had an assistant and a team working under her. A week and a half before the wedding, my son-in-law asked if they could come over. He got Olivia to talk to her mother, and she apologized. She explained why she did what she did. She wanted similar pieces on her dress, but the cost was going to be too much. It was cheaper to add parts. Olivia has said she feels a need to keep up with some of the other women she works with and has a hard time shutting that personality off. She has started therapy and will be changing jobs at a different company. We did not pay more for the wedding. They agreed to have the catering they could afford on their own, with families potlucking the rest. They also came up with a solution for music and decorations. This way, my wife can get what she needs to repair her dress the best she can. The parts that are not able to be put back on her dress, my wife is using to make photo album covers for each of our kids. As for Olivia's dress, my wife spent the time leading up to the wedding making new pieces and attaching them to Olivia's dress herself. It'll be a while before we trust our daughter again like we used to, but we are on the road to recovery. The wedding was a lot of fun, and Olivia and our newest family member seemed to really enjoy themselves. Thanks again, everyone, for the support. OP has highlighted the changes Olivia had to make for the wedding to move forward. Confronting the people she wronged, therapy, and job change were conditions of their relationship continuing. My first thought when he called to come over was that they were going to say it had been postponed or canceled. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button,